Well, guess who is doing another Q&A? You know this thing like you ask and I respond? So yeah, kind of that. And by the way, remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video. I will practice 1 minute more for every like I get. So let's see which comments we've got today coming in. Hey Merce, thank you for even more words of wisdom. Great advice. I do try to focus and work on technical trouble spots that crop up in my pieces. For a beginner like me, the great thing is that there are so many to choose from. They include working on those new damping techniques you went over earlier for some pieces that really need them. Yeah, Giuliani, ad infinitum. I feel you there. I find a great way to discover or even create new problems is to record yourself. Welcome to the club, baby. So you mentioned study from some sheet music you were holding. I assume guitar related, unless you're also working on getting a high energy physics degree in your copious spare time. Just curious what study entails. Going over pieces to work them out or
3 hours later.
So as you might have guessed, dear ladies and gentlemen, music there is a lot to study that is not instrument playing. And it's funny because many people think that practicing with your instrument, that's the whole thing, but it's not. So what am I studying? Well, I'll show you here some of the books I have in the studio that I like to read. One that I have already finished a while ago, but I always keep coming back to it, is the Pathetick Musician. It's about rhetoric in music and yeah, all that good stuff. That was very important also for my thesis. Then other books I kind of, work in progress is, well, no, this is finished also. N.Harnoncourt, the music as a musical dialogue. Eliot, Gardiner. If you don't know these musicians, you should definitely look them up in YouTube. So Nicolaus Harnoncourt and John Eliot Gardiner. This one is the music in the Castle of the Heaven, which is basically about Bach. This is another example of Alfred Brendel book. It's about the music, like in general, complete essays and conferences. Really cool one. And then, for instance, other ones that I was reading and working the last month were these ones. So the first one is, is my thesis, which is here, it just looks the same, about the Cecona, which I promise one day I will publish, but I just don't have so much time, and there's so many things to arrange around this, so I'll promise one day I'll publish it. I promise. So these books are actually by Tilman Hoppstock, who wrote about Bach lute works. And so the first volume is the 995 and the 996. And the second volume is 998, 999 and the 1000. And the last one is about the polyphony, fugues and all this good stuff. And basically it just is also like the 9 and 5, 6, 7, the 8 and the 1000 as well, but focused on all the polyphonic stuff. And that's probably one of the books that I showed you because I find super interesting all the things that he wrote, and let's say all the things that he compiled is amazing research and work that he did on there. So wonderful. Of course, and the last thing that I'm studying is, well, I have here below some more books, but those are the ones that I use daily. But here is another one that I actually have in my iPad in digital version. But as you see, like, I am such a good person that I have the digital version and I still buy the physical copy to support other people. I know, the world doesn't deserve me. I know. I'm just too good. And this is about harmony, Walton, Piston, and everything you want to know. Well, not everything you want to know, not. But it's like the fundamentals of harmony. And basically, if you work on this book, you should be fine to go really up until the weird things of jazz and all these crazy things that they do. This is all the basic harmony to understand most of composers, I think. How does one memorize the fretboard? The first couple of positions I can play, but after it just becomes so difficult. Sad face. This is a little bit tricky to answer because if you are used to read with tabs, so you are not familiar with the notes, you kind of really need to memorize the entire fretboard. But if you know the notes, then it gets a little bit simpler. Why? Well, I'll keep it very short for you, but I'll try to give you the whole picture. In musical notation, the distance between each note is one full tone or two half steps or half tones. There are many names for that, except in two places, between the E and the F and between the B and the C. In between these notes, you have only half step, which means for guitar every half step is a fret. So if you know that, even just knowing the open strings that many people just memorize, kind of making up some sort of weird sentence there, you can pretty much figure out where the notes are. So I'll give you two examples, no more, just two. So let's say you are in the third string and you want to find a C that is not on first position, like here. So what we do is just count from the G. We know that the next note is A and it's full step, so we skip this fret, we go to here. And then the next note is B, so it's also full step, so we skip one and we go here. And then from B to C is one of these spots that is only half step, and we get to C. Second example, let's suppose you want to reach a D on the sixth string. So if you start here, you have a E, and then the next step is F, it's just one step, and then two steps you've got G, so it's one full step until here, and then you have A, which is also a full step, so skip one and the next. You have another full step to B, so another skip, and then you have C, and you just is a half step. So we get here, and then from C to D is also a full step, so we skip one and we arrive here. You could also make the story short, and if you know here everything repeats, here we've got an E, so you go one step back, and you would also find the D. Can you use a guitar with frontal fret markers so we can see which frets are being played? If it might be useful for you to know, classical guitars do not have dots on the fretboard because we are that pro that we don't need them. I'm joking. I don't know why it is, I guess it's just tradition, but we don't have these markers. Generally, the guitar has a dot here on the upper side on the 7th fret and sometimes also on the 5th. But if you have the dot on the 7th fret, you pretty much can figure out where the 5th is because of the proximity to the 1st. If you have these, 4 frets type of fingerings, and the same with the 7. I don't know why the dots thing came along in the guitar, if just to really make life of guitar players maybe a little bit easier. I don't know. Maybe if somebody knows, please comment down below because I'm really interested to know how this actually happened. So I'm very sorry for my tutorials. I will continue using my guitar, so we'll not have dots. Either way, I try to always be very clear with that. Most of the times you also have a PDF to go along with it, and I also add the tabs so that you can follow. And so I think you can make it. I really think you can make it. I'm rooting for you. Hi, I wonder what the difference are with the steel string guitar. As the basic posture is even different, strings closer to each other but somewhat harder to manipulate. Any advice of your own or others for pumping steel? As always, happy with your precise explanations. I learned classical guitar ages ago when still an adolescent. As I only recently picked up the guitars again, some readjustment tips always work. Well, that's a broad question because indeed acoustic guitar players seem not to maybe care as much about the position. They mostly play with the guitar on the right lap. And classical guitar, I don't know because we are nerds and we practice so many hours, but we do try to keep somehow a healthy posture, even though the footstool is not really helping. But nowadays we seem in general to care very much on that. We have the spine straight and all this good stuff. But aside from the body position, I think the way your left hand works, it's still pretty much the same, with smaller, of course, technical differences of the fact that, it's narrower and maybe the steel strings make it feel probably heavier. But that again, it depends because the fact that it's narrower, that can take a lot of pressure off. than a wider neck like the classical guitar. But if I was to take steel string guitar, probably I would approach the same way the left hand, but the right hand I think has the biggest changes. First, I think for nails, probably some people can, but I have rather strong nails, but I wouldn't play with steel strings with my natural nails, because I tried once and they worn off like pretty bad, like really bad. And I have pretty strong nails, like they don't bend, like they hurt if I push. So it wouldn't work for me. So the fact that you can use these plectrums that wrap around your finger, and also those ones, that kind of already changes a lot the game. Surely the thumb does, because you have then the nail, let's say the plectrum here, and that most likely gives you a much flatter position, which probably is actually very good because you can do a lot of muting and everything. And another thing that I'm thinking about with steel string guitar is that usually many steel string players, they add like a crazy ton of percussion. So when you do all this type of percussion, you most likely need the hand to be much flatter and closer to the body of the guitar to be able to do all these type of effects. But this is really not my field. But even though you can certainly take lots of tips for exercises, left hand things, technique, musical ideas, for the right hand I would really encourage that you find special acoustic guitar things. Which makes sense that this comment was put in the left hand guitar tutorial. So good on that. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed my answers because I do love your questions. And if you got any question, make sure you post it here down below in the comments, and you might be the next lucky one that gets featured in a future Q&A. How awesome is that? As usual, I wish you all the best, happy weekend, and happy practicing.